So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to run a factor analysis in SPSS. Let's go ahead and take a look at one of our example data files. I'm going to go to Start, Programs. I'm going to launch SPSS. My computer is slow. I'm going to go ahead and open my data file. I'm going to look in my desktop, point it towards my example data file, and I'm going to go ahead and open the K12 data file to start with. Alright, so now I'm looking at the K12 data file and I'm verifying that this data is correct. I see a unique identifier, an assessment period, and then the 6 different ratings. So to run a factor analysis, I'm going to go to Analyze, and I'm going to go to Dimension Reduction or Factor, and I'm going to select this item. Alright, this is going to give me a screen called Factor Analysis. I'm going to factor analyze all of my variables. This is going to factor analyze idea and content, organization, voice, sentence fluency, word choice, and conventions. You'll notice that I'm not selecting the unique identifier or the assessment period. I don't want those entered into the factor analysis. I am only selecting the variables that I want to have factor analyzed. I'm going to move those variables to the variable screen. I'm now going to go up here to descriptives, and I'm only going to select an initial solution. I don't need to look at the univariate descriptives, and I really don't need to look at any of these correlation matrices. Alright, I'm now going to go to extraction. The method that I'm going to use to extract these variables or to conduct a factor analysis is going to be based on maximum likelihood. Maximum likelihood is just a factor analysis estimation technique. And I want to know if all of these factors, or excuse me, all of these variables load on one factor. So I'm going to select extract and then choose fixed number of factors, factors to extract, just one, and then I'm going to click continue. Under rotation, I'm going to click none. I'm not really worried about the rotation right now. Under scores, I'm not going to save any variables. Don't select that. And under options, I'm going to exclude cases listwise. Alright, I'm going to click OK, and this is going to run a factor analysis on those 6 different variables. You'll notice that I have an output screen now that's coming up. The output screen is simply the record of what just happened. And if I look up here in the first box on my output screen, this is actually the syntax. So you'll remember from our introductory video that if I go to New, Syntax, I can create a syntax page. And this information right here is essentially the same thing that would be in a syntax screen. So I'll cut and paste this to show you. I'll click copy, and then I'll move over to my syntax, and now I have a group of a set of syntax that would be ready to run the factor analysis if I wanted to program it instead of use the GUI. But I don't want to do that. I just am showing you for these purposes. Alright, I'm going to go back to my output screen. So this is Communalities. This is not something we're going to look at right now. We'll look at this one in quantitative methods too. Well, there isn't a quantitative methods too, but it's not what we're paying attention to today. All right, so now I'm looking at a box called Total Variance Explained. And in this box, there's this table. And this table shows you that there were essentially 6 items that were loading onto one factor. And the first component of those 6 factors explained 83% of the variance, and then going on to explain 100% of the variance. So that should make sense. So this is a cumulative percent of the variance explained, and this is the percent of variance explained. So 83% by the first factor, 88% by the time I'm done analyzing the second variable, 91.5 by the time I'm done with the third, 94, 97, and finally there's 100% variance in my 6 factors that are explained by those 6 factors. All right, again, not something to be terribly interested in, except for looking at whether the one factor found a large chunk of the variance, and in fact it did. The first factor found 83% of the variance in the 6 variables. All right, now I'm going down to factor 1. Factor loadings are listed here, and you'll remember from your tutorial that factor loadings are standardized, meaning they go from 0 to 1, basically. The higher they are, the better the loading, and the more we know that these measures are all hanging on to this factor. Idea and content loaded with 0.88, organization with 0.881, voice with 0.904, word sentence with 0.902, word choice with 0.901, and conventions with 0.886. This is really good news. This shows that all of these variables create one common factor, and they create that common factor with very high loadings. They're all related to the underlying factor of interest.